The stage was quiet. Melania Trump had just delivered her sharpest words yet, each one aimed to undermine Jasmine Crockett. Are you really who you claim to be? Can you genuinely represent the people with your background? The audience held its breath. But Jasmine remained composed, looking calm, steady, and unshaken. Then she responded in a way that left even Melania silent. From that moment, everything changed. The year was tense, and the atmosphere across the country reflected it. Frustration was visible on streets, in people's expressions, and in conversations everywhere. Families argued at dinner tables. Strangers shouted across sidewalks and on television. Repetition filled the air. Promises, excuses, political spin. People were exhausted. Tired of speeches that sounded impressive but said little. Tired of being told everything was fine when it wasn't. Prices were rising, tempers were flaring, and a question echoed louder each day. Who can we trust anymore? The answer was elusive because trust had become rare. Amid this climate of division and frustration, one event captured national attention. A live discussion meant to bring two influential women together. One embodied the old guard, polished, poised, and surrounded by luxury. The other was bold, direct, and deeply connected to the people's frustrations and hopes. Melania Trump and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, different in every way, yet both symbols of power. The event was intended to be calm and civil. The invitation read, "A conversation on leadership and unity." In a nation long divided, the words sounded ironic. Still, millions tuned in. Some watched for Melania, curious about her views on her husband's presidency and the surrounding controversies. Others watched for Jasmine Crockett, a rising political voice known for confronting hypocrisy wherever it appeared. The stage was set in a grand hall in Washington, D.C. Soft, golden lighting illuminated the flags behind the speakers. The audience included officials, journalists, and ordinary citizens who were lucky to secure seats. Beneath the elegance, tension was palpable. It wasn't just politics tonight. It was about identity, power, and truth. Cameras rolled. Melania appeared first, elegant, calm, composed, carrying the signature stillness that made her both intriguing and intimidating. Polite, restrained applause followed. Jasmine Crockett entered next, purposeful, confident, direct, her energy filling the room naturally. The applause for her was louder, genuine, and even slightly defiant. Before a word was spoken, the contrast was clear. Melania represented control, Jasmine represented courage. The host welcomed everyone, and the discussion began. Both women smiled, nodded, and spoke softly at first. Yet beneath the surface, tension was building. Melania opened with elegance, speaking about dignity, how leadership should reflect grace and discipline. Her words were polished but carried an undertone of judgment, subtly defining who deserved respect. Jasmine listened patiently, hands folded, aware that this stage was a test, an opportunity to rise or falter. Every camera, every viewer at home, sensed that something significant was about to happen. Melania's words, polite but pointed, described representing America with elegance and honor. On the surface, harmless, but the tone suggested she was setting the audience to judge Jasmine. A warning cloaked in a smile. Jasmine remained calm, her sharp eyes conveying readiness. Then Melania turned slightly, meeting Jasmine's gaze, and asked softly but sharply, "Are you really who you claim to be? Can you honestly represent the people with your background?" The hall fell silent. Not a cough. Not a whisper. The kind of stillness that signals something irreversible had just occurred. Melania smirked, confident she had cornered her opponent. But Jasmine didn't flinch. She met her gaze, smiled faintly, and that single look said everything. "You chose the wrong person to test tonight." Tension rose. Even the host seemed uneasy, uncertain whether to continue or let the moment unfold. Viewers leaned closer. Something significant was coming. The question had shifted from politics to power. Who truly held it? When Jasmine lifted her microphone, the room held its breath. Everything, the mood, the control, the perception of respect, was about to change. Melania's question still echoed, softly but sharply. "Are you really who you claim to be? Can you honestly represent the people with your background?" For a moment, even the camera seemed to pause. Her tone alone carried judgment, measured and polite. Audience members exchanged uneasy glances. The host pretended to check notes, but all eyes remained on Jasmine. Melania, leaning back, signaled confidence. Your move. Jasmine didn't respond immediately. Her calm, folded hands and composed eyes resisted the pressure to react impulsively. Seconds stretched like minutes. Then Melania spoke again, her words soft but icy. You talk about truth. Truth is quiet. Real leaders don't shout, they earn respect through grace. The audience murmured, some nodding. Melania's strategy was clear, to portray Jasmine as emotional and unfit for leadership. Jasmine, however, recognized it and allowed herself a faint smile. Melania pressed on, emphasizing discipline, elegance, and control as hallmarks of leadership, subtly questioning Jasmine's understanding. A soft gasp echoed from the audience. Another subtle jab hidden in a compliment. The host attempted to redirect the conversation to policy, but attention had shifted. The room watched two women engage in a silent strategic battle, each move deliberate. Melania believed she had won the first strike. But Jasmine's silence was not weakness. It was patience. She allowed Melania to finish her remarks on family values and responsibility. Then, leaning forward, eyes locked on Melania, she spoke. Mrs. Trump, Jasmine said, calm and measured. I respect your words, but being loud does not mean being lost. Sometimes those who raise their voices are the ones still listening. Her tone was precise, not angry, yet impactful. She addressed the audience. There is nothing graceful about silence when people suffer. Leadership is not about image. It is about courage. And courage doesn't always look perfect. Applause began at the back of the room and grew steadily. Melania's fingers tightened on the armrest. Her smile remained, but her eyes betrayed concern. Sensing the shift, Melania leaned forward sharply. Courage, she said, is knowing your place, staying loyal, not attacking others to appear strong. The host tried to intervene, but Jasmine raised her hand calmly. Respectfully, she replied, real courage is standing up when told not to. The audience erupted in applause, some standing. For the first time, the balance had shifted. Melania's attempt to diminish Jasmine had backfired. Jasmine now appeared stronger, sharper, and relatable. Cameras captured it. The audience felt it. Melania knew it. Still, she maintained composure, smoothing her dress and addressing Jasmine softly. Congresswoman, I hope your courage can survive the truth. Another pause. Another tense moment. Jasmine didn't falter. She looked at Melania, then the audience, and with a calm, slight smile replied simply, Oh, it will. And with that, she had captured the room, without shouting, without chaos. Power is most dangerous when it is quiet. The air in the hall was heavy. Not from heat, but tension. No one moved. No one whispered. Melania's last words, I hope your courage can survive the truth, still echoed through the speakers. Across from her, Jasmine Crockett remained calm, silent, and calculating. It was a silence that felt like it was building before a storm. Everyone sensed it. Something was about to happen. Melania leaned back, confident she had the upper hand. Her eyes swept the audience, claiming victory before the moment had even passed. She expected Jasmine to give a polite smile, a measured reply, and let the moment go. She was wrong. Jasmine's hand moved toward the microphone. Slowly, deliberately, without panic. The camera zoomed in, the lights sharpened, and her calm, steady voice broke the silence. Mrs. Trump, she began, I know who I am. I've earned everything I have. I've stood with people who trusted me, not because of a name, but because of my work. A few nodded quietly. But Jasmine wasn't done. Her eyes locked on Melania's, steady, unwavering. You asked if I can represent the people. I can because I am the people. I didn't marry into power. I earned it. A soft murmur spread. Someone whispered, Oh wow. Melania's face stayed composed, but her hands clenched. Jasmine leaned forward slightly, her tone calm but firm, filled with conviction. Since we're talking about real identities. She paused, letting the silence stretch. Melania tilted her head, smiling politely, expecting a defense. But Jasmine continued. Then tell me, who is truly Trump's wife, you or Ivanka? The room reacted. Not with shouts, but with a quiet, sharp intensity, like a blade sliding free. Every camera, every heartbeat, focused on Melania Trump. For the first time, her calm faltered. Her jaw tightened, her smile paused for a fraction of a second, enough to be noticed. She blinked slowly, then forced a soft, unnatural laugh. "That's cute. Really cute," she said, her voice slightly wavering. Jasmine remained composed, her voice gentle but powerful. "You asked if I can represent the people. I represent honesty, transparency, and reality, the kind that doesn't need a spotlight to survive." She turned to the audience, warmth growing in her voice. People are tired of fairy tales. They want leaders who live in the same world they do, not behind walls of power and money. Applause swept the room. Melania's expression hardened as the clapping grew louder. Jasmine continued, calm but unstoppable. "Real leadership isn't about looking perfect. It's about being real, even when it's uncomfortable." The applause turned into cheers. Melania's confidence cracked, her eyes darting between the host and Jasmine. But Jasmine didn't gloat. She remained serious, thoughtful. "You wanted to test who I am. But the real question isn't me. It's who is standing beside power, and who controls it." Another hush fell over the room. The connection between Trump, Ivanka, and Melania was already widely speculated. Jasmine's quiet delivery amplified the statement. No drama, just undeniable truth. Melania's breathing quickened. Her voice, when it returned, was defensive. "I think you should be careful. It's not respectful to speak that way." But the audience's energy had shifted. The room that once admired her poise now watched her with doubt. Jasmine had claimed the stage without even standing. She leaned toward the microphone one last time. "Respect goes both ways, Mrs. Trump. I respect you enough to be honest." The crowd fell silent. Her words were final. Power had shifted. Melania's gaze dropped briefly, then she lifted her chin, forcing composure, but the energy was gone. Jasmine had turned an insult into a statement, a challenge into triumph. Sometimes power isn't about raising your voice. It's about staying steady while the other person loses balance. That night, Jasmine Crockett didn't just respond to Melania Trump. She exposed the truth silence cannot hide. The applause that followed wasn't ordinary. It rolled through the room like thunder. Melania remained motionless. Her calm exterior hid a flicker of something rare. Uncertainty. For years, she had been untouchable. Polished, composed, untouchable. But now she faced someone unafraid to challenge her, not as a symbol, but as a person. The host tried to regain control. "Let's keep this respectful," he said. But Melania interrupted, her voice sharper than expected. "No, I will finish this," she said, her accent thickening, tone trembling between anger and pride. She exhaled, short and uneven, eyes narrowing at Jasmine. "You think you are clever? You think it's funny to make a joke about my family?" The audience held its breath. Jasmine didn't flinch. Her calm only unsettled Melania more. "You do not know what it means to live under constant lies," Melania snapped, voice rising. "You do not know what it means to have your life judged every second, to be called fake, treated like you are not real." Even Jasmine softened briefly. Then Melania's tone hardened. "I am proud. I am strong. I am wife of the President of the United States. I do not need to prove anything to you." A long silence followed. Jasmine leaned forward slightly. "Then why are you trying so hard to convince us?" she asked quietly. The audience gasped. Melania's face froze, disbelief flickering across her features. For a split second, she looked lost. That tiny crack in her armor told the story. She wasn't angry because Jasmine insulted her. She was angry because Jasmine had seen her. Suddenly, Melania stood. Lights caught her silhouette. "You will regret this," she said softly, her threat unmistakable. The hall went silent. Melania had delivered her sharpest words, meant to diminish Jasmine. But Jasmine remained calm, steady, unshaken. Then she said something that left Melania silent, and changed everything. The year was tense. America felt it. Streets reflected frustration, conversations were heated, families argued. People were exhausted, tired of speeches, excuses, and spin. Prices were high. Tempers were higher. And across the country, one question echoed louder each day. Who can we trust anymore? There wasn't an easy answer, because trust had become rare. Amid the frustration and division, one event captured the nation's attention. A live discussion designed to bring together two powerful women. One represented the old guard, polished, poised, and surrounded by luxury. The other was bold, direct, and connected to the people's anger and hope. Melania Trump and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Two very different women, yet each a symbol of influence in her own way. The event was meant to be calm, civil, even uplifting. The invitation read, "A conversation on leadership and unity." But in a country that hadn't felt united in years, those words felt almost ironic. Still, millions tuned in. Some watched for Melania, curious about her views on her husband's presidency, policies, and the surrounding controversies. Others watched for Jasmine, a rising political voice unafraid to call out hypocrisy wherever she saw it. The stage was set in a grand hall in Washington, D.C. Soft golden lighting filled the space. Flags stood tall behind the speakers. The audience was a mix of officials, journalists, and ordinary citizens who had managed to get a seat. Beneath the elegance, however, there was tension. An energy that could almost be felt through the screen. Tonight wasn't just about politics. It was about identity, power, and truth. As the cameras rolled, Melania appeared first. Elegant and composed, she carried a calm stillness that was both mysterious and intimidating. The applause was polite, restrained, almost rehearsed. Then Jasmine entered, confident, purposeful, with an energy that didn't need permission to fill the room. The applause for her was louder, raw, genuine, even a little defiant. Before a word was spoken, the contrast was clear. Melania represented control. Jasmine represented courage. When the host welcomed everyone, the discussion began cautiously. Both women smiled, nodded, and spoke softly at first. But beneath the surface, something else was unfolding. Melania opened with her usual poise, speaking about dignity and how leadership should reflect grace and discipline. Her words were smooth and measured, yet carried a subtle judgment, drawing quiet lines between who deserved respect and who didn't. Jasmine listened, hands folded, knowing this wasn't just another public discussion. This was a test, a stage to rise or be broken. Every camera leaned toward them. Every viewer could sense something significant was about to happen, and the tension grew with every passing moment. Melania's words, polite but pointed, spoke about representing America with elegance, about knowing one's place and carrying oneself with honor. On the surface, it seemed harmless, but her tone hinted at preparation, setting the audience up to see Jasmine in a certain light, a warning wrapped in a smile. Jasmine remained silent, her expression steady, eyes sharp, speaking volumes without words. Then it happened. Melania turned slightly, looking directly at Jasmine, and asked in a calm, cutting tone, "Are you really who you claim to be? Can you honestly represent the people with your background?" The hall went completely silent. No whispers, no coughs. Everyone knew they had witnessed something significant, something irreversible. A smirk tugged at Melania's lips. She believed she had cornered Jasmine, expecting her to falter or defend herself. But Jasmine didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She simply smiled back, a single look that said everything. "You chose the wrong person to challenge tonight." The tension in the room intensified. Even the host seemed unsure whether to continue or let it play out. Viewers leaned in closer. This was no longer just politics. It was about power and who held it. As Jasmine lifted her microphone, the room held its breath, knowing the dynamic would shift in the next moments, and Melania wouldn't anticipate it. The silence lingered like an unbroken storm. Melania's words, softly spoken yet razor-sharp, still echoed. "Are you really who you claim to be? Can you honestly represent the people with your background?" Even the cameras seemed to pause. Her tone carried the weight of judgment, polite but cutting. Audience members exchanged uneasy glances. Melania leaned back slightly, signaling confidence. "Your move," her posture seemed to say. This wasn't just a debate. It was psychological strategy. Jasmine remained calm, hands folded, eyes steady. The tension seemed to demand a reaction, yet she held her ground. Seconds passed, stretching like minutes. Melania spoke again, her accent soft, precise. "You talk about truth. But truth is quiet. Real leaders don't shout. They don't seek attention. They earn it through grace." The audience murmured, a few nodding. She was subtly shaping the room's perception, portraying Jasmine as emotional, someone unfit for leadership. Jasmine noticed. She allowed a slight smile. Melania continued, "Some believe leadership comes from speaking loudly, but true leadership requires something deeper. Discipline, elegance, control." Turning toward Jasmine, "I wonder if you understand that, Congresswoman." A soft gasp from the audience followed, a veiled jab hidden in a compliment. The host attempted to redirect to policy, but it was too late. The crowd's focus shifted from the economy or social issues to the subtle exchange between the two women. Each move was careful, each smile strategic. Melania felt she had gained the upper hand. But Jasmine's silence wasn't weakness. It was patience. When Melania finished her speech about family values and responsibility, Jasmine leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on Melania. The audience leaned in, sensing the moment. "Mrs. Trump," Jasmine said calmly, "I respect your words truly. But let me be clear. Being loud doesn't mean being lost. Sometimes those who raise their voices are the only ones still listening." Her tone was calm, precise, forceful without anger. Melania's eyes narrowed, surprised by the measured, intelligent response. Jasmine continued, speaking to the audience, "There's nothing graceful about silence when people are suffering. There's nothing elegant about pretending all is well when it isn't. Leadership isn't about image. It's about courage, and courage doesn't always look pretty." Soft applause began in the back, spreading across the room. Melania's fingers tightened on the chair's armrest. Her smile remained, but her eyes betrayed concern. Attempting to regain control, she leaned forward sharply. "Courage," she said, "is knowing your place and staying loyal to it, not attacking others to appear strong."